Hello, everybody. My name's Kyle. This is going to be my second interview for CRE number 6, and the topic for today is grief. I'm here with my friend Tennyson, and he's going to answer these questions for us. So, Tennyson, thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. So, grief is an important part of life. We grieve for many reasons, including lost loves, failed goals or dreams, friendships that become distant or broken, for our youth, beauty, innocence, etc. Additionally, we also grieve after the death of a loved one, be they a family member, friend, or an acquaintance. So, in order to better understand your grieving process, I'm going to ask you, what is your grieving process?
So for me, I think it's a lot more solitary. I tend to kind of go to my room and I just kind of tend to process things. I process things emotionally and better on my own. I'm also not the kind of person that cries out a lot. That's not really how I grieve. I mean, there have been multiple examples of deaths in the family or deaths of pets or really tragic events in my life, and crying is not really how I get it out. Sometimes that might not be the healthiest thing. I don't know, but I really tend to just kind of sit by myself and just kind of collect my thoughts alone because it's
Mm-hmm.
easier for me to process it than anything else.
Fair enough. So, where does your grief process come from? Do you think you observed it in others, or did you kind of create this process on your own?
Um, I've kind of created my process on my own. I've always been an independent or a more private person when it comes to that stuff. I've never been the one that kind of like wants to broadcast
Right.
my grief to others, just for a variety of reasons, unless it's like something that I really need to like share with a friend, or it's a really important thing to me that just like I gotta talk about it to a friend or a counselor or something like that. But I mean, I've always been a independent person, and so it just naturally seemed like that was the most natural way for me to do it.
All right. And do you think your grieving process changes based on the situation, or is it a consistent, you kind of go through the same patterns every time?
I don't know if patterns is the right word. I definitely kind of go off my own every time, whether it's death of a human family member, or death of a pet, different death of a friend, or really just a didn't get a job I wanted, whatever it is. It seems to be the same process, kind of just like going and being to myself, getting my thoughts together, and just kind of letting out whatever I need to let out, and just in private, and then going on about my day. Because in my mind at least, I mean, after you've kind of had your time, I mean, life goes on. There's a lot of
Right.
external circumstances surrounding you, things that have to get done. Your bills don't stop, your job doesn't stop. Life doesn't stop whenever you have a tragic event like this. And so, I mean, it just kind of seemed to me that you just kind of have to, pick up the pieces and keep going because I mean, the world doesn't stop regardless of
Right.
whatever we're going through.
All right. And then, do you think you learned to grieve from anybody, maybe a parent or a sibling? Did they have any impact on how your grieving process is today, or do you think it's just kind of completely independent, like you've done it all on your own?
For me, I don't think it's entirely independent. I think you get some idea from seeing other people do it, but I mean, it's like a lot of things in life where until you've experienced it, and you hope that you don't have to experience it multiple times, especially when it comes to the death of a family member. But I mean, these things happen. I think it's one of those things that, like a lot of other things in life, you get better the more that you practice it. You get better the more that you have to deal with it. Obviously, the first time you go through it, obviously it's horrible. It's new to you, and a lot of times I think, especially for myself, I didn't know how to deal with it the first time. And then the more and more you go through it, it's not. It gets easier. That doesn't mean that the death of that individual or the loss of that individual is easy. It means that because it's something that you've had to do before, the process is a little bit more. You know what helps you. You know the things that work for you. You know what doesn't work for you, and so it's
Right.
easier in a carrying out the process of grieving sense, not necessarily who you lost, but it seems to me that with time, and with different instances of grieving, it seems like I kind of found what worked for me.
All right. And then I guess the next question I've got for you: have you ever experienced disenfranchised grief? And just so to kind of explain to you, disenfranchised grief is kind of like when you were grieving over something, and somebody or some people may kind of dismiss it as not being something important or not being something worth grieving over and almost kind of make you feel bad about, already grieving. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Nothing I can think of. I mean, like I said, most of the time when I'm grieving, it's something that, um, it's like a loss of a family member, loss of a friend, actually, tragic, really tragic instances. And so I don't think most people in the world will not see that as something that is not worth grieving or not
Right.
worth, being sad about. I mean, we're all humans with emotion. We all understand the concept. We all understand and grapple with the concept of death, for family members, friends, and ultimately for ourselves. So I don't think that's something that anybody has ever told me stop, grieving, the loss of your now deceased relative or friend. And I don't think I've grieved something um, seriously that wasn't something that was really really important to me, because there's a difference between grief and disappointment, obviously. So like,
Mm-hmm.
when your favorite sports team loses, or when you don't get a job that you interviewed for, or maybe you didn't get to get a second date with that person that you went out with. I mean, that's disappointment. That's, you wish it had gone a different way. That's not grief. And so I don't
Right.
think I've ever experienced it quite like that, for anything that's not something worth grieving over to most of the general public. I would say that it's worth grieving over.
All right. Well, in that case, it's all I've got for you today. I do want to say again, thank you for taking some time out of your day and answering a few questions for me. And that's all we got.
Of course.